Hey everybody, we're back for another Halloween movie spoiler review. And this one, oh my god, I was so eager to jump into this. Uh, didn't want to end the month without reviewing this. It didn't dawn on me about this freaking movie last year, and by the time I thought about it, already was like the slots was already filled up. So I had to make sure that this movie had to be on this list this year for October. And it's one, it's like I'm not a horror guy, but I'm very selective. And when it comes to certain horror type genres, if they get me in the right you know moment, I love it for the rest of my days. We're reviewing the 1996 classic cult hit, The Craft, starring Farissa Bach, uh, Robin Tunney, Neve Campbell, and Rachel True. Also, guest starring with not guest starring, but supporting characters Skeet Ulrich and Breckin Meyer. And it's like looking back on that, it's like wow, they are super young back then. I was like, what? How old was I in 1996? Like, I wasn't even like a teen yet. I mean, it was like a couple of years maybe before I was an official teenager. That's how like young I was back then. But I just want to put it out there right here and now, just to get it out the way because I do not want to let it linger. I am super in love with not just Farissa Bach, but the character of Nancy Downs. Yes, she's fucking batshit fucking crazy. Counterpoint, she's super fucking hot. I mean, like, yeah, my sexual awakening was Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman, but Nancy Downs, man, she made that goth look work for her, man. I like goth chicks is probably goth emo chicks. They probably like my like kryptonite, man. Because I tell my friends this all the time. Like two of my friends in particular, uh uh because they all in agreement. Like yeah, she is hot in this film. Uh and oh man, like I told my friend Anita when I visit her in Vegas, it's like no, it wasn't a visit to Vegas. I often, not often, but every so often, I bring it up to her, and it's like I asked her last time that I brought this up when we was playing Dead by Daylight, and I was like, I don't know what it is with me with messed up chicks like that. It's just like she pointed out like he's probably just want to protect girls like that, maybe, or maybe that speaks to my psychological issues that like these kind of girls I'm so drawn to, these bad girls or messed up girls. I feel the same way with like Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman, Jinx from Arcane, uh, uh, Harley Quinn, uh, whom else? Shoot, but yeah, it was just like just using those. Oh, Yuri from Street Fighter. Just these messed up toxic chicks. Jessica Jones. I really dig Jessica Jones. This is like the whole bad girl aesthetic. If the genders would flop, I probably would have been one of those girls that like just can't stay away from those bad boys. And I probably would be end up with like a person that I should not even be around with, man. But it's like I I just can't. Oh, God, I love Foressa Bach. She is so, and she's still stunning to this day. That is wild to me. Man, I just can't rave enough about it. I love Nancy, and that's my white whale of a poster I want to have. I want to find like a good poster of Nancy Downs. I haven't found like the right one, and every time I go to a con, it's like they never have one at all, and it drives me bonkers. Like I know I can get like a good, Fawessa Bark Nancy Downs poster. That's my white whale of a poster. I don't care how much it costs. Well, I do care a little. Like I don't want to get like up to like $400 to $500 worth or anything like that. Who will pay that much for a freaking poster unless it's laminated with gold? But you know what I mean. But it's like, oh my god, I just need to hang it up on my wall just so I can just wake up to having Nancy now staring at me. Uh, God, I just want to get it out of the way. I'm going all over the place with it, but you know how I feel. If you ever watch The Craft, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Anyway, this movie gave the inspiration to, if you ever watched the TV show Charmed, this gave kind of inspiration for that TV show uh, uh, a few years down the line. And of course, this movie later made a sequel, The Craft Legacy. I think it came out in 2020, I think. Early 2020 or late 2019, something like that. And I haven't seen it. And from what I understand it was very mid. It was okay. It didn't do trash, but it didn't really. Because if it was super glamorous, it'd been all over the place. Like it'd be kind of like everywhere, anywhere, everywhere, all at once. Kind of, that movie that it's like everybody's like, dude, you gotta go see it in there. Oh, or like Top Gun, you're like, oh, this like this better. It would have been like on that tier if it was like bombastic or at least like, because when the original Craft came out, it did gangbusters and really like brought like witches to the forefront, at least for modern day of the time. Uh, uh, so yeah, I mean, it became like a sleeper hit. Maybe leading up to the film's release, it probably didn't seem like a big deal, but man, it did great. Neve Campbell had an impressive year because this is the same year that Scream came out, which is one I'm gonna be reviewing right after this. This movie came out in December, which is weird because you would think it'd come out in close to October, and Scream came out in May of that year, which is weird because you would think they've been releasing some close to October, but whatever. She had an impressive year, and like Neve Campbell, just like Christina Ricci, became like synonymous for the Halloween aesthetic. And so yeah, was blank on the woman's name. Robin Tunney playing Sarah Bailey, Forrest Bach, Nancy Downs, Neve Campbell, Bonnie Harper, and Rachel True as Rochelle Zimmerman. Now, I keep want to call her Robin. Sarah moved from San Francisco to Los Angeles with her father and stepmother, which you only seen like the father only gets like 3 scenes out of this entire film, and you rarely see like the mother. She really don't have any speaking roles from what I recall. But it's just primarily the father's the focal point as far as like her home life. This is like a nice life and everything like that. And I gotta say, right out the gate, because I'm sitting there recalling, like, because speaking of Christina Ricci, I was like, this is exactly. It's almost the same. Kind of, I won't say a trope, but I guess it was not much of a trope these day and age, but it was a hell of a lot of a trope going on all throughout the 90s, getting into the 2000s, at least up to the point of the year 2000, where it's like new kid coming to the neighborhood, social outcast right out the gate kind of situation. You got that with Casper with Christina Ricci. You got that with that kid from the boy from the first Hocus Pocus movie. There was a lot. I was like, wow, that's almost beat for beat. That's crazy to me. But I guess that was like a running thing. A lot of Disney, direct Disney movies had a lot of those. You know, just to name more. Uh, but she moves in this creepy ass house. Why would you move your family to a house? And that's another thing that's maybe not necessarily a trope, but it happened a couple of times. It happened in Casper. It happened in this film. It's like, are you so financially lacking to where you can't move in to a decent home space? You gotta buy the last house on the left kind of situation here. You gotta buy the cabin in the fucking woods. Like the creepiest is fucking house in the movie. You gotta, purchase that. And they're like, oh, well, it's a fixer upper. Fuck you. It's like I wouldn't do that. And like, and did you bother to check? Even if you do that, wouldn't you bother to check it out beforehand before this big move and make sure the renovations, got started way before you make this big move? Like, do you on you on the run, from the cops or something? Because you don't know what the father does for a living, but it's like, did you get laid off? Like, you get to just pick wherever it was available. Because none of this was like, at least I would have respected a little bit more if it was at least looking like it was halfway renovated. And it didn't look decent until the end of the film. I mean, at least with the kid from Hocus Pocus, like the house, they may have moved into moved to Salem, Massachusetts, but the house looks like a respectable house. It didn't look like a rundown shack. That's a fixer-upper. That seems like the boggles of mind. Anyway, uh, you know, uh, Sarah goes to this, Catholic school, and she meets up with these various cliques. Obviously, you got the whole, because it's the 90s. Like, of course, I wasn't in high school yet, so all throughout the 90s, I was pretty much in middle school. So, uh, I don't know exactly how accurate. It should be fairly accurate because by the time I got in high school was in like the early 2000s, so it shouldn't have changed all that much. At least just enough where you don't actually get people shoving you fucking in the fucking lockers or anything like that. It's relatively chill. Uh, but she you later see like the other three ladies, and rumor goes around that, oh, they're witches, but well, maybe they heard that they practice witchcraft, but it just pretty much outcasts. And here's the thing, because that was like a huge deal all throughout, like from what I've recall from the 90s, where it's like, social outcasts are deemed weird, or things that we enjoy today, or like the bulk of the stuff you've seen at cons, all that stuff would have been shunned and bullied to all to the depths of hell, and now it's just like fully embraced because it just wasn't looked on favorably back then. And it's like from when I grew up, like like especially throughout like high school, you weren't allowed to like everything under the sun wherever your heart's content that you feel like you like, there's like a few things that like the social clique would deem, allowing to be like acceptable nerdy stuff, like either it's Dragon Ball Z or Pokemon, and 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 like maybe the Batman animated series and X-Men animated series, but that's about it, kind of situation, because those seem cool enough to enjoy. Everything else, you will be, laugh, you'll be shunned. You couldn't just be you, and you know, because like I'm looking at this and I'm just getting all kinds of fucking flashbacks. I imagine it would have been somewhat worser if social media existed back then, which I'm thank fucking God it didn't, because me and a bunch of other people probably just as, well, not saying like kids today are like all messed up, but a large portion, is definitely messed up, and because at the very least, when people bully you, they have the balls to do it in front of your fucking face and not behind like a Twitter wall and stuff like that. Um, so like Nancy, trailer trash kind of girl, uh, got an abusive stepfather, and like, you know, somewhat of an alcoholic mom. Up until her last scene in the film, where she seemed more like sober and everything like that. She's appeared mostly like just drunk, and she lives in a trailer park, and the roof's leaking, and like the deadbeat stepfather ain't doing shit. Then you got uh Bonnie, who years ago was in like a car accident where most of her back was like had like third-degree burns and stuff like that. So she couldn't really show off much skin without facing ridicule, because kids fucking suck, especially high school kids. They fucking suck. More especially, back then, because most of which wouldn't really uh, be that understanding of your circumstances, or at the very least just wouldn't address it, or just like, ain't my problem, like whatever, it's like, I just don't want to be around you kind of attitude. uh and then you got which is probably like the more, I want not to compare like, traumas, but Rochelle dealing with, because she's like, I think she's, I don't know if it's like, I can't recall anybody else black in this school, but I'm pretty sure there's like a few, but it's like predominantly white Catholic school, and she's facing like, racist bullying from this preppy blonde white haired dipshit, uh Laura Lizzie. And like, uh who, by the way, her little friend sitting there like keep messing her up while she's trying to, in the swimming class, trying to do the diving off the board, which she, is really good at, but distracting her as he's trying to dive off mid jump. And then, you know, it is rated R, so they could have gone further, but I'm glad they kind of fell back. They kind of had a cake and ate it too, where, Rochelle confronts this girl like, why do you hate me? And it's like, truthfully, yeah, truthfully, because I don't like being around Negroids. It's like, okay, you got your N word in there without going all the way with it, but give us just enough to get the freaking point. And I'm trying to recall because I watched this movie at least a few times as a kid. It's been a while since I've seen it up until this point, and it's like I'm trying to because maybe it's from TV shows like The Cosby's, and maybe like San Francisco, something like that. Because I'm trying to recall what was like the first thing. Because it wasn't until like I got into like you know uh uh like junior year of high school where I actually had to confront like racist bullshit. It was like a cop mistaking me, my little brother, and a friend of ours from high school for some other group of kids that were shooting like several blocks down the street, and they confused oh, you just found three black random kids just standing on there and just assume that you found the right person kind of situation, and cuffed us until they like yeah and we have to stay there until they got the all clear that like they got the wrong people, so they uncuffed us right then and there. But it was like that was my, I think, like my first engagement with that, like face to face, like, and understood it at the same time. But as far as like watching it, like I'm pretty sure it's like Cosby Show that actually dealt with this, or at least like Sanford and Son and Good Times, maybe like that's probably the earliest. But like I I don't know if like I registered it completely, because it's like you try to Rolodex your mind back so far and you only get like vague notions. But like, listen, this is like, wow, like, man, they really 'cause I probably I watched it at least quite a few times, and like it wasn't until when I watched it recently that like wow, they said that. It must have been like Mandela effect. I just kind of, it went over my head, or I just blocked it out. Um, so they meet up with Sarah, who she was warned about these girls, but she found some kind of kinship with them because of their other issues, and it's shown that Sarah had attempted suicide for being like a outcast, because like she is into like weird stuff too. As Bonnie witnessed her balancing a pencil on her desk straight up like this and twirling it with her mind. And it's funny. It's like, man, like, girls like this would have been, by today's standards, would have been like worshipped. Because, and like the people who used to pick on people like that would have been, I mentioned about how like terrible social media is, but one of the few good things about it is that, people who will shame Andy's girls for any one of those little triggers would have been bullied mercilessly themselves, especially for something like a car accident and getting burned. Like, why would you, you know, uh, uh, shun a girl who been in an accident and had to, and had like, burn scars and like on her back? I was like, that's not something to make fun of. But I'm talking in 2022 standards. I'm trying not to be like one of those woke mob people who want to throw everybody into the freaking gutter for stuff they did way back in the 90s. I don't want to do that. It was just the time of the, this is the thing of the time. But it's just like, we came far. So they embraced her knowing that they need like a fourth in their coven. Uh, and they go out to the meadow and start casting spells against those that they want that wronged them in a certain way. Sarah initially, had an interest with Skeet Ulrich's character, Chris Hooker, this freaking name, uh, who she didn't want to like hook up with the first night they hung out. So this dipshit, decided to spread a rumor that they had sex and it was terrible. She confronted him about it, and then he decided to humiliate her in front of everybody. So she decides, oh, well, cast a love spell to make him fall in love with me. Then, Shell casts a spell against uh, Lizzie. Nancy, you know, she doesn't want to be like, in the circumstance she is no more. And Bonnie to, have beauty. And they all worked. You know, uh, Bonnie's like uh, burn scars, just peeled away. And she walking in class, just hot ass freaking Neve Campbell, and she's all these, doofus dude bros. Breckenmeyer with his long hair and like this is a freaking, because a lot of these people are not high school people. They still was pretty damn young. They're either in their 20s. Uh, uh, Rachel True was 30 years old during filming of this, but you can tell like how good she freaking looks. Black don't fucking crack. Uh, but they all look great. Uh, so Lizzie, well, this is kind of like, yeah, she's a fucking racist, not like she's a Nazi or anything like that, but still fucking racist. And I would have put a caveat on the spell. Maybe that just not how it works. But like Doctor Strange says, well, this isn't exactly how it works. That's not how That's not how it works. And she casts a spell to make her hair fall out. Just it's like a minor punishment. It doesn't want like her to die or anything like that, but just like suffer humiliation, like she put on Rochelle. Uh, and like now, Sarah got Chris to like fall head over heels with him, but now it's up to the point of obsession. And then you think initially Nancy's spell isn't working until her stepfather got a heart attack. They claimed the life insurance, and this is the weird part here, which is probably even back then wouldn't make any goddamn sense. They got like several hundred, at least like a little over $100,000 from the life insurance policy. Her mother, and they moved into like a freaking high rise in LA, mind you. And it's like, yeah, a nice apartment. It's like, I sure as hell doubt, even with that kind of money, you're gonna even if you can, little you maybe afford maybe like a month's stay at best at that time in a place like that, with the money you earn. Like you really pissed away. It feels like you're gonna piss away all that money. You couldn't just get like a reasonable house in a reasonable neighborhood, uh, at all. I mean, it's like and save yourself some coin. I don't freaking know why. It just seems like it's dumbfounding to me. Then, I mean, of course, uh, the spells start going awry. Uh, uh, this is the part where it's kind of, there's some good images, like, the special effects. Yeah, it's still kind of dated or of its time, but it's still pretty good special effects in this film where Rochelle goes into the women's shower and after doing like a perfect high dive, because Lizzie is like losing her hair, but it's still falling out. And I guess because you didn't put a freaking caveat on when it should stop, but you see her crying hysterically in the bathroom and just strands of hair all over the place. And like now, like, Rochelle's feeling bad now. But then it's like this awesome shot where the mirror, of her just turns that way. And then Rochelle then just like a second behind it, turns and looks in the same direction. It's not facing each other. That was like an awesome shot. That always stuck with me, and I thought that was one of the most brilliant use of special effects of that time. That was that really got me. That was really good camera and special effects angles. Um, um, uh, uh, Bonnie's starting to come a little bit more narcissistic with her beauty, where she's a little bit, more, you know, you know, not narcissistic. I couldn't find the opposite word for narcissistic. Uh, uh, and then Nancy is starting to lose a bit of empathy because she wanted, and she's starting to want more power because now she's getting where she likes, because they're like, they start to uh, get this book from this library, and they end up meeting this librarian uh, who's also a witch in her right, named Lario. And she's warning the girls against, messing around with stuff that's out of their control. But of course, you're dealing with teenagers, and of course they want to do, reckless crap. And it's always the thing, with like movies with teenagers. They always want to do like pushing their limits and stuff like that. And it kind of reminds me of like all the Doctor Strange stuff that I read or watched, and it's about like magic has a freaking cost. Even though they didn't put into full words like until Doctor Strange movie, but magic has a cost, and these girls are learning it. Uh, they having like a hard lesson in that fact. They end up going to a beach where they're invoking this deity named Manan, and the next morning they see Nancy walking on water, but like a bunch of like sharks and other sea life are beached, a few yards away, and you can starting to see like Nancy's descent. Not only like loving the power she's getting, but it's just like her empathy is just starting to declining, and she's starting to come a little bit more, whacked out of her mind. And the others are just like following suit. She's the dominant one, and they're just totally submissive to whoever she says. Uh, uh, Things really took a turn where Sarah was trying to hang out, just have like a normal night out with Chris until he tried to rape her because the love spell is like overwhelming. He's not even controlling his whole faculties because he initially, he had like a bit of a lust for her, just like a, just straight up teenage just lust and nothing else behind it. But now this love spell is going out of control, and that's all he uh, can think about is her. So she escapes, then tells her friends, but Nancy's like, because she had a moment with Chris prior to the story of the movie, but just like with Sarah, he kind of rebuked her because she was like the weird one kind of thing, and like, you know, that mistreatment obviously affected her. So she got like a mixed feelings about it, like the love hate thin line between love and hate kind of situation, but it's really jumping up and is exemplified with all this power. So in order to seek revenge on this guy, also still kind of put the moves on him, almost like a very rapey kind of way herself. And this is like one of my favorite. This is one of my favorite gifts on like social media, where like they all at this, these, kids are at this, massive party. You always gotta have like a party in these kind of teenage movies. And she walks in like my favorite goth getup on a girl, the Nancy Downs goth getup. Oh my god, I love it so much. It's so freaking good looking. Oh my god. Uh, and she walks in there and just like sticks her tongues out at like a girl walking by, and it's like, oh my god, yeah, so stick your tongue in her freaking mouth, like, oh my god, god, I'm sorry, love this character, I love this actress. Uh, so she goes up there, puts on a glamour. By the way, speaking of glamour, the use of glamour in this is fantastic. Like I said, the special effects, yes, it's dated, but still good for this time. Where Sarah is like, you know, she, use glamour to alter her appearance. So, because she's like a brunette, well, or just like a slightly brown hair, like a darkest brown hair. So she just do this, and you see it turns to blonde as it goes down, and that was like a good use of special effects. I love that. And then just to make it disappear, she just shakes her head and it goes back to her normal color. I was like, that is freaking brilliant. Ironically, the hair she had throughout the movie anyway was like a wig, because she had short hair uh, for real when, because she was like filming something else prior to this movie. And like by the time that wrapped up, she was hopping on this, so she still kind of has short hair, and the character Sarah had long hair. Just a little FYI. So Nancy puts on a glamour to disguise herself as Sarah just to get this guy in bed with her so she can rape him. But Sarah, goes, the real Sarah goes to the party, stops the whole entire thing, get a lot of gift moments with Nancy Downs, my favorites. And then this is where, because she got, first of all, got like best supporting character in this film, just for this role, because she eats up a lot of her scenes, but this one in particular, she really eats it up, because I still to this day remember where like she confronts this guy, and like another great cinematography where she's like, she got these little pointed boots on, and she's just gliding on the tips of her boots towards this dude who's still not got his faculties together, because he's still on that whammy, and he because he's telling her like, I'm not into you, is like, blah blah blah, and and she confronts him with all his like male toxicity BS, and he's trying to like saying like, look, I'm sorry, and like I told to my friend Andrea about this multiple times years ago about this scene, because he knows how much I love this character, and it's like and just like the acting in this, because I want to, like, if I could do anything in live action acting, if I land some kind of, even like a supporting role or a bit part, I want to like just like do the whole Nancy Downs from playing some kind of crazy character. It's like, sorry, 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 and then like, and just using the power, she just keep like, this deity, which, well, we'll get into that in a second. She used that power and blasted this boy out the window and killed him. Which I'm surprised nobody immediately arrested this chick, but I guess you can't really prove uh, by physical evidence that she actually touched him, or any like forcible evidence, like evidence of forcing this kid out the window. So it's just deemed as accident. But I want to mention, because I wanted to bring it up in the film, end of my review, but I want to mention right here and now, there was, from what I understand, there was some eerie occurrences going on during filming of this. One in particular during the beach scene where, like, where Nancy, like, starts walking on water, and before that, when they like on the beach, invoking this Maman character. The movie had like an actual Wiccan as a consultant on the film, That's why it's freaking it's so freaking authentic. And most of the incantations these girls were chanting were realistic, words, maybe altered here and there, but pretty much same thing. And the deity that was uh trying to invoke was named is not Manon, but it was like Mananana. It's like a few more letters, but uh the consultant mentions that it was like a Gallic god or something of the sea. And hold on, let me look it up. Yeah, this is like a Celtic god, a Gallic god. And um is it Celtic? It seems like it's Celtic. Um, yeah, there you go. Yeah, Manananan. Looks like it's a Celtic sea god associated with Tutha de Danann. Dennan. There are Gaelic pre-Christian pantheon that are known in Ireland, Scotland, and Isle of Man as a little more of that. Uh, uh, yeah, it's like a god of the sea. So he has like a pagan god. Uh, well, yeah, and so once every time they were trying to recite these uh words for the ritual, bats started just I want to say swarming the set, but I started like hovering over the movie set every time they try to do that, and the water will just rise just rapidly out of nowhere, and to the point where they keep like rise to a level where they put out all the candles, uh, and 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 once Nancy says the lines Manan come into me, then the power of the entire set starts just went out. And it's the creepiest thing the director ever seen. A lot of them had ever seen. And the consultant on the movie set, mentions that they probably was actually invoking this deity, and it's some powerful stuff. I was like, holy shit, that's fucking spooky. Uh, uh, so I just want to bring that up. So after this tragedy, Sarah decides, okay, things are getting out of hand. I'm going to use a binding spell to bind Nancy to keep her from hurting others and herself, but it didn't work. Now the three girls are just turning on her, which is weird because like I probably attribute this to like Nancy's domineering attitude and increasing power, and they just following. They always been followers to her. Uh, uh, but now it's kind of like increased tenfold at this point. So they all end up turning on her, even though like both of them like really liked Sarah, but then started invading her dreams, trying to attack her. Sarah then eventually runs to the witch to ask for help, and she's trying to help her, embrace her power because is, just out of nowhere, just hinted that her mother was, well, not even hinted, they just straight up like just said it, like, oh, your mother was a powerful witch, and you know, like, that's out of fucking nowhere, but I guess it makes sense. Uh, uh, but they didn't have time to really like delve too much into that because you know Nancy and others, somehow in there tracking Sarah, and they go up they try to burst into the shop. I don't know if it's some kind of illusion where it's some kind of like explosion bursting through the door, but it wasn't there or wasn't real. So she just runs off through the back door. It's the last time you see this elder witch, but she could have easily helped. You think maybe because she might have been like powerful in her own right, but against three uh, witches invoking this deity, and it's like, I don't know, this might be slightly too much. But this is the last time you see this woman. I was like, wow, that you probably could have used her help. But she runs off back to her home, where it's crawling with like all these various snakes, insects. There's maggots growing out of the toilet area. Hope you don't have to pee. And then Nancy is trying to get inside her head, trying to get her to like commit suicide. Only after she put this glamour on her, making her think that her parents died in a plane crash that ultimately wasn't real. And after she, runs upstairs, she finally embraces her Wiccan heritage, and you come to learn that all the power that they was using like early in the film, they was pretty much leeching off of Sarah. Because Sarah didn't really have any control or fully embracing her powers. She didn't exactly go to witch school or freaking Xavier School of Gifted Children to harness it properly. So these other girls pretty much just starting to like ape off of her. Then once she embraces it, she put glamour on Rochelle and Bonnie, thinking their powers turned against them, or at least all the good things that came from their powers turned against them. Rochelle's losing her hair. Bonnie's turned to freaking Two-Face, and so they started running out the house like freaking Scooby Doo characters, and like Nancy is like aghast, like, where are you going? So she decided, oh, I'll handle this myself. And so you got this awesome. It's kind of like a thing where it's like Nancy's pretty much like a freaking like a horror movie character, which I would love to have Nancy Downs on freaking Dead by Daylight. How wild is that? I would play the hell out of her. Uh, uh, but it's like, can you imagine like some kind of psycho? You think would be like a dangerous antagonist throughout the entire film, goes into a spot where they're the ones going to be attacked by something even worse kind of situation. So Nancy's going in Sarah's room, and like the Nancy's reflection morphs while her back was turned, morphs into Sarah, and she just started toying with Nancy, and she steps out of the mirror. Great shots here, great use of CGI, and so they have like a fight, and Sarah's starting to like put the whammy on Nancy, covering her bugs and causing her to freak out. But then, she's trying to play that innocent game. I'm sorry, okay. I got a little, it's got a little carried away. Clearly faking it. Even when I was a kid, I can tell that was an obvious fake. But Sarah's, it's like I love the shot here because like it kind of reminds me of Michael Keaton's Batman, where it's like beginning of, or at least most of the films, where it's like a shadow hitting his face. You only see a little bit of his eyes, and you see the expression of the eyes. You can pay attention to that because that looks so good. And she's just like, it's like, yeah, I won't kill you, but I'm still going to teach you a lesson. And so she's going still trying to continue the binding spell, but it's stronger this time. And like these two, like try to duke it out with their witch powers, but uh, Sarah blasted her against this glass mirror, the big tall vanity mirror, and knocks her out. And she's just all cut up not all cut up, but she got like shards on her, not shards, but just got cuts here and there. So next day, because it seems like the family's moving to a different house. Should have gone to a better house in the first goddamn place, not this creepy haunted mansion. Uh, and then Rochelle and Bonnie comes up trying to reconcile, saying that they don't have any powers anymore, and asks if he still got yours. And she doesn't say or give a clear answer, and then they give some snide remark like under their breath, like I guess she's out of power too. And then so she like force a branch to Sarah forced a branch of a tree to break and nearly falls on these girls, and just pretty much telling them, watch your fucking back. And then the last scene of the film, you see Nancy in a psychiatric ward saying that she can fly and everything like that. Her face got cuts and stuff like that, and so she's like completely whacked out. And it was like a nice, awesome ending shot to a film. I want to bring up, because this inspired the TV show Charmed. The TV show actually used one of the songs that is played in this film. It's right when early in the film, the first act, where Sarah is watching Chris play football, and you hear that theme song. I am the sun, I am the air, I am heaven, I need a meaning. That song, I did poorly, but you get my meaning. And I thought like, oh, because when I first watched Charm, because I didn't get on the ground floor of the show until maybe after, like, spoiler for like a very old TV show, until Prue died. After that point is when I got into it and rewatched the old shows, because my stepmother watched watched that show a lot. It was probably one of her favorite shows. And when that theme song playing, I could not recall, like, that sounded so familiar until like I rewatched The Craft, like sometime after I got into Charmed. I was like, oh, they borrowed the song. But and then there was a reunion of because after Legacy, Craft Legacy came out, there was like was it like a reunion before or after? Hold on. It was 2013. The three main actresses, except for Forrest Buck, reunited for like a Halloween screening of the movie for at the Hollywood Forever Cemetery. And fun fact, Dark Horse by Katy Perry was expired. This movie expired the Dark Horse song, which I love, by the way. It's one of my favorite Katy Perry songs. And the actresses from the Craft Legacy expressed vehemently that they want like a sequel to their movie where like intergenerational crossover between like the older actresses with the new actresses. I think that would be dope. I think that'd be a nice little ending to this kind of like a Craft trilogy. I think that would be freaking dope. I wasn't like too pumped about the Craft Legacy when I first heard about it. I initially thought that was going to be like a CW kind of TV show. I didn't think it was going to be like a movie. But it's like it came off very CW-ish to me. And I was like, I'm not here for it. And I probably got maybe I'm a little biased because I grew up watching The Craft, so I'm a little like biased. But I will actually go to The Craft 3 if one is made, where you have these two generations meeting together, and maybe they'll give me the I don't want to say force me, but encourage me to watch The Craft Legacy. Right now, I don't have that kind of mindset for it. But yeah, I mean, that is the spoiler review of The Craft. Like I said, it's one of my, at least as far as like when it comes to Halloween related films, this is like really up there. I love The Craft. I already love like supernatural, magic stuff in general. But man, this is like, and plus, I love my goth girls. I love goth girls. And like Marissa Bach is like queen of goth girls. And I just love her. I can't rave enough about this woman. Oh my God. You talking about childhood crushes. I mean, well, this is, Michelle Pfeiffer Catwoman was my childhood crush and my sexual awakening. I wanted to marry Nancy Downs. Crazy as fuck, but I really, really love that woman. Oh my God. And for a character, it's like, you go crazy for a certain character. She's just like that. She's that. You catch my drift. Everybody got that one kind of movie or TV show character that they just deeply love, and not like an obsessed Chris Hooker way, but you know what I mean. But it's like I would definitely hook up with her ass. Like I don't even care, man. Batshit crazy and all. But anyway, stay tuned. In a few minutes, I'll be doing a spoiler review of the first Scream movie, and then after that, quick comic book review, very Halloween based as well. And I got a little surprise, at the tail end of the night.